Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Hello and welcome back to the Cornwall Property Podcast. This is episode 34 and I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And we have got the lovely Sophie Lang with us today. Sophie is an lettings expert. She's an absolute guru when it comes to lettings in Cornwall. We say guru, we probably all agree geek.
I prefer the term geek.
But again, thank you so much. And for those that are not regular listeners and it's the first time you're listening, the aim is for us is to inform, educate and inspire you guys to get involved with property, and with a particular emphasis and a focus on the Cornwall property market. There is a big issue going on in Cornwall with regards to housing and a lack of housing. So we're just hoping to educate you guys on how you could possibly get involved with property, whether it be an investment side of things. And if you've got any dilemmas that you want some assistance with and some education with regards to how you can get involved with property, even it might be just lettings and you've got a property of your own, or you might be renting, just get involved. We'd like to try and help wherever we possibly can. And thanks again for those who've been getting in touch with us.
Absolutely. And just remember, you can do this by going to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, and you can also reach us on social media and also email, which is hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com. But thank you for all of your support and everybody that reaches out to us. It's lovely to have you on board.
For sure. So those that are regular listeners, you'll know that this will be our market update session. So what we have done here, we have got a very, very special episode here because this, Sophie, you are our first ever guest on the podcast.
I am absolutely honoured.
Thank you very much. Lovely to have you here as well. Sophie, tell us a bit about you. Who are you? Why should people even want to know what you do? Tell us. You've got a lot of experience and that's why you're here. We love what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Sophie Lang. I have been in lettings for 17 years in the Cornwall market. Started out in admin, worked my way up, and I've been director of a lettings firm for the last 12 years down in Falmouth. We cover residential lettings and HMO, so we specialise across the board. I'm personally extremely passionate about property. I am the Property Mark executive for Cornwall. If anyone doesn't know what Property Mark is, it is it's kind of it's a membership scheme for letting agents who strive for a higher standard for their clients and higher property standards.
Amazing.
So I'm their Cornwall executive. I'm very involved. It's a really great position for me because it means I can feed back market updates to London head office and they can lobby accordingly for how landlords are finding it on the real level. So yeah, really excited about doing that because it means that we can make active change to the letting sector from where we are. So it means we can input stuff from landlords and clients and tenants about the letting market, what needs to change, what needs to be better, and then we can push that straight to government and influence their decisions.
And are you finding that's kind of ladder system is working, is it? Is that
Absolutely,
getting heard now?
Yeah. I mean, Property Mark are the biggest lobbyer for government change. With the white paper, for example, they were on the round table boards and made changes before it came out as the white paper because there were some other things that they were going to look at, which we managed to convince not to because it wouldn't be fair to landlords.
Of course,
And we're at the moment, since the white paper's come out, we're now doing small roundtables with different government officials about different aspects of the white paper to say why we think it needs changing, if it's good, if it's bad, which is great because it means we can shape that white paper. As it's not law yet, we've got chance now to amend it by pushing back with evidence to show why it needs to be different.
It's actually coming from a really good source. It's people that are actually in the industry and living
Absolutely.
and breathing it,
Yeah.
so the feedback.
I mean, we're on the ground. Government officials aren't. They're sat in offices. They're not generally. Some of them aren't even landlords.
And they've probably never been.
Never been landlord, never been a tenant. Yet they're making decisions based on things they don't know about or media things they write. There's a lot of clickbait, which is my pet hate. Especially when the white paper came out. All landlords are evil is one of my favourites. And we're working to change that because that's not what it is on the real ground. And we know from working in property, living, breathing property, that that's not how it is. And it's our voice that will make the difference.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, that kind of brings us on nicely to the articles. So what we asked was, because we do market updates, we asked Sophie, just out of interest, what articles do you feel are really, really important and are relevant really for us to talk about? So what we've picked out, and Sophie's picked out a brilliant one here from the letting agents today, is basically just promoting that actually this white paper is out. We've spoken about the white paper quite a bit, but for those that aren't familiar, we'll touch on it briefly. But it's more important that there's actually something you can be involved with now actively to help with the outcome of this white paper. Is that right?
Absolutely. This is what's really important. The government has opened up this small window of time to collect evidence from actual landlords, actual agents and tenants about what they feel about the white paper, what they feel will work, what they feel won't work, and this is how then they make the decision on any changes to be made. So it's really important that people take the time to give some feedback, because you can't moan about it if you don't do something about it, if there's anything you're not overly happy with.
For sure, definitely so. And that's quite a simple process, I believe, is it?
Absolutely. It's a website. It is written submission, so it's not questions, but they have put some questions on there that they specifically want the answers to, such as how the changes will affect the student market, particularly how notice changing Section 21 being scrapped will affect landlords adversely. There are specific questions to guide people to write what they think. They just need to write a little paragraph on each thing and submit it through the link, which is an easy email process.
Fantastic. And just for those who are interested in potentially doing that, on the show notes, as always, if you go onto the show notes on whatever source of medium you're watching or listening to this podcast on, we have added the links to the article on the show notes, and within the article you can then do this yourself and get in touch and make a difference if you possibly can. I've got a question, James, before you do, but I've got a question. Out of all of the points that they're trying to change and to bring in, what kind of one alarms you the most, do you think? I know there's quite a few, I'm sure.
Well, in fairness, I think there's got quite a lot positive to take out the white paper. I think there was the initial shock. Oh my gosh, this is going to be the nightmare. But actually, if you break it down, it's not as horrendous as it was made out to be, and as the press is definitely making it out to be. I mean, safe and decent homes. We all want better property standards.
100%.
I mean, we want tenants to feel safe, secure, and know that they're living in a safe home. So that's not a problem. I don't even think the scrapping of Section 21 is too much of a problem, because they're trying to stop no-fault evictions. I don't know about you, but I don't know any landlord that's ever evicted a tenant for no good reason.
No, agreed. And as long as you've got substantial grounds and evidence.
I mean, no one's going to kick out a tenant who's paying their rent, looking after the property, and everything's cushy.
I suppose the only reason will be if they need to sell.
Exactly, which is one of the grounds under Section 8. So that is covered. So, Section 21 scrapping, I don't think is going to be as catastrophic as it's being made out to be, because that seems to be the thing that everyone's focusing on.
Yeah, and again, I think, as you said, it's clickbait, isn't it? And the press have really tried that.
I think Ombudsman for private landlords is great. Self-managing landlords need to be monitored. They are generally where you get the most problematic and complaints for tenants is landlords that manage themselves.
That's where the stigma becomes. You've got
exactly.
the rogue landlords.
So you've got the rogue landlords. So that's not a bad thing either. I think there's one thing that sticks with me, which is periodic tenancies. Periodic tenancies don't work for tenants or landlords, in my opinion. The whole point of the white paper is for a balanced and fair system. This actually benefits no one, and it's very strange the government have gone from just 2 years ago insisting on 5-year minimum tenancies to now saying that all tenancies start periodic from the beginning, which means landlord and tenant can give notice from the start. It doesn't work on many counts. One, there's certain tenancies that it just doesn't work for, such as student tenancies as an example. It's a set academic year. It makes no sense. It also slightly annoys me that they've exempted purpose-built student accommodation. For me, private rental student accommodation is no different to purpose-built. And tenants don't want everyone wants security, especially with the rent increases as they are, and the housing crisis we have at the moment. Everyone wants security, and periodic tenancies offers no one any security. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. So that's the one bit that I am lobbying for quite heavily.
And do you feel that from consulting others in the area, I suppose, everyone's kind of echoing this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm yet to find one person that thinks periodic tenancies is a brilliant idea. And that comes from tenants as well as landlords. I've got tenants that are petrified about the idea of it being periodic from the beginning, because usually, I mean, we have tenants asking more and more for longer contracts for the security.
Isn't it? Yeah.
They're asking for 2-year contracts, and under the new rules, that wouldn't be an option.
Yeah.
Also, mortgage companies love fixed term, and I don't think they're overly happy with it going periodic.
I can imagine too. I can imagine. Well, again, so guys, if you want to get involved and make a difference and make a change, and obviously, as you said, it's all well and good moaning and groaning about it, but if there is a real moan and groan, do something about it. So please,
absolutely, more voices, the more chance we've got for the government to listen and make changes.
Excellent.
I think it is really good that they're asking the people. I mean, politicians, they're not landlords, like you say. And I think if they're letting the people speak up and, explaining what is actually happening in the industry, they can make better decisions on that. Quick question I've got for yourself, Sophie, if I may. Do you think that just with all this new regulation, which it was inevitable, it was going to come at some point, and it is, and it's great for, what Dan and I believe in is better quality living and better landlords out there. That's what this is all about, giving safe homes for people to live in. Do you think that more people will go to letting agents just think, I just want to be doing the right thing, and just, I'm not going to self-manage anymore, I'm going to pass it over, which is great for letting agents, and maybe they'll start competing in a better product on your side? But
I mean, obviously, I'm slightly biased as
sure,
an agent, but I do think having an agent is basically like having an insurance policy. So at the moment,
100%.
compliance on properties is so complicated and advanced that your standard layperson who doesn't work in the industry, who we get a lot of accidental landlords, they inherit the home, etc. They don't know the basics. And I know when I started 17 years ago, you did literally sign a piece of paper and hand over keys and a gas safety certificate. That was it. That is so far from what we've currently got, which is great. I absolutely am all for regulation in the rental industry. I'm for regulation of agents. I'm for regulation on all counts to bring up the standards, create good, safe homes for tenants, because they deserve to live in a safe, good, well-managed home. But yeah, I do think that landlords need to consider using agents. We are a profession, and we are qualified. We live and breathe property. It's what we do. We're there to protect our client. Our client is the landlord. So we're in that place. And I do think the legislation, especially with the ombudsman for private landlords, will push landlords to use agents. I understand we're a cost, but you get what you pay for. Without that insurance policy, you wouldn't drive your car without an insurance policy, because if you have a car accident, you're paying out for the other person, you're paying out for your car. It's the same with property. If you don't have that insurance policy, that someone's making sure you are ticking all those boxes, you are open to fines, you can't evict your tenant. There's so many repercussions now that I think using an agent is the safest way to have a property and make it work for you. And then it becomes passive income as well, which means that it's an easier life.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I suppose
good answer.
the next is also, how do you pick a good agent? Because obviously there's so many names. You type in letting agent Cornwall or letting agent Family, so many come up. So it's kind of like, well, what?
Sophie Lang.
That's it.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's it. Wherever you see Sophie's name, you just go with that one, obviously. But generally, if someone's out of Cornwall, perhaps listens to this podcast, traitors. But yeah,
Well,
what do we look for? What are the big things that you should really?
I mean, do your research. I mean, reviews are out there. Letting agents are always going to get bad reviews because we deal with tenants and we have to deal with obviously
Both sides
difficult
of it,
situations. We have to balance. I mean, we have a duty of care to tenants. I do not believe in the ethos that tenants are not your clients, so don't worry about them. That's not how we work. Landlords and tenants are both important. Landlords are ultimately the client, but tenant, you've got duty of care, and they are, they're future clients. And so you look at reviews. The other way is, I know I'm biased again because I am a Property Mark agent, but I joined Property Mark because they are a seal of, we get audited every year by Property Mark. Our accounts get audited, our processes get audited. We have a standard practice that we have to follow. If we break that standard practice, then we get kicked out of the scheme. We're striving for standards, and also we have to be qualified. So all agents that are Property Mark have to have a minimum level 3 qualification in either sales or lettings, because they cover both. I have my level 3 and I'm just currently doing my level 4. So level 4 is a degree in lettings equivalent. Level 3 is an A level. But your agent has done, has got a minimum qualification and knows what they're talking about. We are professionals. We should be treated the same as solicitors, because the amount of knowledge we need to have is the same as a general solicitor. Sure. So yeah, look out for Property Mark registered agents, because it shows that agent has gone out of their way to become registered, become qualified, meet all these tick boxes, and constantly annually be checked that they're meeting standards. So that you're on to an agent that cares about what they do.
And I think really valid. And so point is, Property Mark is a big one. I think, and you've nailed on the head really. It's just standards. It's making sure that they're adhering to standards, and the fact that they're regularly assessed and checked up on, I suppose, and just made sure these standards are continuing. It's not a one-off test at the start. It's every year you're being rigorously
Annually, our accounts are picked apart. Annually, we are tested on all our staff, who's got qualifications, what we do. We're meeting standards. We also they act as an ombudsman as well. So if there's any complaints, people can complain straight to Property Mark, and they will come and check that we're meeting their standards, because they do work with the TPO, the Property Ombudsman, which we also belong to. So we are doubly covered.
Yeah.
So that, if your advice will be, that would probably one of the main accredited.
Absolutely. Just look to see that they're accredited, that they've got all the things that they should have on their website. You know, we are covered by so much legislation now. We have to have client money protection, for example, and it has to be displayed on your website. You have to belong to a property ombudsman. There's a couple to choose from, but you have to belong to one of them. So there's recourse if anyone wants to complain and they're not getting anywhere with your complaints procedure. So look for those things, because when agents do that, it means they care, they are serious about what they do, and they're striving to raise the standard.
Definitely. No, fantastic. And I know that we're regularly asked, well, who should we go for? Or what do I look for in a less agent? So that this is something that we can definitely steer people to, and massively helps. So thank you
also,
for that.
meet them.
Yeah,
you can
for
tell
sure.
instantly when you meet an agent if they care.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You'll know if they know what they're talking about.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more on that, for sure. But look, we've got one more article we've just highlighted. Again, something that we've talked about previously, but again, very valid reasons for bringing this up again. So this is from, again, Letting Agents Today, and this link is also going to be in the show notes. So please, if you're interested, have a little look. But essentially, we're looking at the EPC targets, aren't we, Sophie, and the concerns really on meeting these.
I mean, at the moment, it's looking like, obviously, there's draft paper in place that government actually haven't done further on. I think COVID probably put a bit of a scupper on that, but there is still out there a private members bill pending for MEES, for energy efficiency, to say that by 2025, all new tenancies, properties have to rate a C and above, and from 2028, all tenancies have to be C and above. Currently, if we just relate to if we relate across the country, 40% of properties currently are a D and below. That equates to, if you look at all of the properties in the private rental sector, I think it's 1.7 million properties currently do not meet standard.
That's a lot of upgrading.
When we're already in a housing crisis, and then you're looking at potentially in the next few years removing another 1.7 properties from the market. I'm not saying obviously landlords will upgrade and there's gaps, but I think the government need to be doing more to encourage and give more available grants to upgrade properties. I think in Cornwall it's important for us because I think it's the Cornwall Council did a survey last year, and 29% of properties in Cornwall that are privately rented are D. Getting to a C you wouldn't think is too difficult, but it depends on what you do, and I think landlords need to be made aware now to make those changes. One of the things we've been advising landlords is if you're doing work, i.e. replacing a boiler, putting carpets down, look at how you can affect your EPC now whilst doing that and prove it, because when you go for EPC ratings you need to prove you've got sufficient insulation, and that's very difficult if you've done the work and there's no documentation. So we're getting landlords, the easy, quick, inexpensive wins is light bulbs, insulation. They're the two main ones that will make a massive difference.
Yeah, and there's only certain time, apart from the bulbs, but insulation wise, there's only certain times of a project you can do that.
Absolutely.
And essentially, if you're going back to brick or back to an extensive refurbishment, obviously it's a little more straightforward. But if you're you're just doing a little subtle refurb or an update or an upgrade in certain areas, it is difficult to do that without making substantial damage, I suppose, to certain areas of the building. So it is important. So
and one thing we're lobbying for as well is how properties are assessed, because Cornwall, we're a bit special down here. We have a lot of not standard buildings. So we've got granite, we've got, you'll know from your projects that you find all sorts when you start peeling back walls, and under the EPC grades, the assessors, as they do it at the moment, they class like granite as low insulators, but actually on tests granite actually insulates extremely well. So if and there's two types of EPCs at the moment. You've got your resident and your domestic, and then you've got your non-domestic. Non-domestic a lot more involved, and they involved like a gas escape tests and things like that, and so you're fine. So we did a test on one property where we had the non-domestic done and then a domestic done, vastly different outcomes. It came out as a B on the non-domestic, and then it came out as a D on the domestic because the testing's so
Just marry
different.
up, do they?
And it doesn't make, it should be consistent because it makes such a big difference. One property in a few years' time won't be able to be rented under that EPC, but it can on the other.
Would that push potentially people to move it over to non-domestic?
Well, that's
which is
it,
not going to
but-
be good for Cornwall.
But that's the thing, they won't.
Yeah.
They won't do it. But I just think the actual testing needs to be looked at, because as we know from EPCs, a lot of the time the assessor, if it doesn't know the insulation, will just put assumed and go for the worst option. And that involves then, as you say, taking down walls. Unless you've got documentation when you did the project, we put this insulation in and photographs, they love a photo, then you can prove, and then the assessor will change his mind. But yeah, we're going a lot back and forth on the older properties at the moment. But I think that needs to be looked at. We're all for upgrading, improving properties, and obviously with the crisis in energy levels at the moment and cost of living, we're all for making properties more cost effective, but we have to be given the tools to do that, and also the assessment has to be true to what the property is actually capable of.
Interesting. Well, we found in our Mevagizzi development was actually that although we had double glazing initially, it didn't give us as good a rating as when we upgraded the double glazing, because people think, as soon as I've got double glazing, it's all right. But actually, depending on how old your double glazing is, it has a massive detriment on the EPC, because the newer glazing is far more energy efficient than the older glazing. So little things like this is kind of just educating yourself on those.
On one of our properties, the landlord had an EPC done before we managed it, when there was no heating.
Right.
It scored extremely highly because it was energy efficient, because it was cheap to run because there was no heating.
No way.
But when we had it done and it had electric heating, then it went skyrocketed at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's things like that, and that make a massive difference and need to be kind of looked at.
And that's another thing that they're trying to do with the new SAP 10, is that at the minute, because you are penalised for having electric.
Yes.
Because electric is deemed to be really expensive to run. It's done on energy efficiency and how much it costs to maintain the heat in your properties. But they're actually trying to now bring electricity up to gas, because obviously we all know we're trying to go for the zero carbon and all this sort of malarkey by 2030. It's just, how are you going to do that? No gas by then. But there's no encouragement for that, because you're actually encouraged to have gas at the minute with your EPCs, because you get a better score. So we're trying to get people to go electric, but we're actually penalising them for being electric. So it's just
But then we also, the government have really pushed for like heat pumps, but heat pumps have actually been scoring really low on EPCs because they're so expensive to run. So actually they're pushing that as an energy efficient method, but it's actually not helping.
No, not at all.
So yeah, it needs to be looked at.
And interestingly, again, I'm geeking out here, so apologies, big time. But on the heat pump side of things, I'm yet to find a retrofit heat pump that is actually efficient, because the problem,
they're not. All the ones I've spoken to, they've had to have additional systems put in to boost it.
Yeah.
And what's the point of that if you've got to put in a system?
It's a fantastic system, but you've got to build around it. You've got to build knowing that this is going to happen. You can't just retrofit a heat pump, because the whole idea of the heat pump, it just maintains the temperature throughout the day. But obviously, if your property is not insulated, is an old granite property perhaps with not a lot of insulation in the external walls, you're constantly going to be losing this heat anyway, so it's just going to be constantly on trying to maintain it throughout the day, which is where these issues come. So the heat pump needs to be working with a new building which is well insulated and prepared for it. But yeah, these are all, again, we could go on for hours on this because we are proper geeks. So if you want to know more, obviously feel free to get in touch. But again, I think that so much knowledge, and thank you, Sophie, as well. Some really great points there, and I think there's a lot to take away from this for sure.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I guess it's part of the show, James, that we put our necks on the line a little bit as well, don't we? Because this is our section of the show. We're just going to share with you a couple of properties that are currently on the market. And again, what's the problem with Cornwall? We know there's a housing crisis. There's not enough residential property currently available. The last time we checked, there was 22,000 people on the housing register waiting for homes and emergency homes and accommodation. So we're trying to look at opportunities whereby you can make some money, perhaps, and also bring some property to the market. These properties are generally, the properties we're trying to identify are derelict, they're empty, they're sad, they're unsafe, everything that Sophie loves in a property. So we're just trying to identify these opportunities whereby you could get involved with property, take a property on, make some money, and also help the housing crisis. So, James, what have we got first? Let's go for yours first.
Absolutely. I've got a residential bungalow, which is in St Ives in Liskeard. Now, for the viewers out there, this might look like a very sad property, and I'll be completely honest, it is, but there is bags of opportunity here to be able to add value to this bungalow. So, a bit of a description here. Set in the ever popular village of St Ive, the wonderful semi-detached bungalow is an opportunity not to be missed. Reset from the main road, offering internal accommodation to include a 13-foot reception room, 2 double bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, and even a garden room. There is a lawn front garden with a sun deck to the rear. So, to me, this is saying this could make quite a nice family home, I think, and it's set back, in quite a nice little place. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it looks quite rural as well, actually. Bungalows, straight away, I think, right, let's go up. let's build up. Let's build out. They're normally on a good plot of land, actually, these older bungalows as well. So definitely some great opportunity there to not only, it's a really attractive price at 152, isn't it? This one is on with Bradley's in Listgard, so feel free to get in touch with Bradley's if you want to have a little look as well. But if you're watching this as well, you can see the images on the YouTube videos. And if not, there's a link in the show notes. You can access the link and have a little gander yourselves.
Absolutely.
But no, it's a good opportunity.
Not bad at 150,000 as well.
Yeah, you could get a good rental yield on that.
Definitely good rental yield and definitely good value on the property. But I have spoken to the agents on this one, and it has been empty for over a year. So this is a classic example of a property that is sat there. We're in the middle of a housing crisis, and this is the answer for a developer.
The amount of empty homes currently in Cornwall is quite high.
Criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's not. So yeah, guys, there's an opportunity there. Perhaps get in touch and have a little look. So my one, for those regular listeners and watchers and viewers even, you'll probably recognise this one. But and James gave me a little bit of a stick for revisiting this property. He goes, oh, that's a creative one. But the reason I picked this property, it is Trehawk House, Dean Street in Listgard. So right on the high street. I actually drove past it this week, which prompted me to, which I've got a little bit more interest in it now. But it's a big it's the old bank. It's an old bank in the town, and this has been on for a little while now. But the reason it's got my attention again is this initially was on at 475, so £475,000. This was listed back in, I think it was April now, off the top of my head. However, the reason I know this has changed, if you're looking at this now viewing, you wouldn't have a clue about this. But basically, if you go on Chrome, if you look on Rightmove on Chrome and you actually download a bolt-on, it's called Rent Tracker or Price Tracker, and on Chrome, I'm not on Chrome and I've not got this on my the iPad which you're viewing this on now, you can actually get a little arrow, and the arrow is green or red essentially. If it's red, it shows that there's not a lot of change happening. If it's green, it shows that there's been a drop in price. So I went on this property and there was a big green arrow and I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, so I clicked on it again and there's been an £80,000 price reduction on this property over the last four months. So that straight away, James, what does it tell you about the seller, sorry?
They are motivated.
Exactly
a big M on their forehead.
A big fat M. They're really keen to get rid of this. And the other reasons are, well, why might they be interested in getting rid of it? And it might be perhaps business rates. There might be external factors going on. They're being charged to have this property here. However, actually, it's grade 2 listed as well. So that's an interesting factor. But guys, the beauty with this is obviously there's an attractive price. They're trying to get us to trying to sell this. Clearly, there's a big reduction here. And it's already got planning consent for 8 apartments. So the hard work is done. It is literally a case of, or the biggest risk factor has been done. So it's a case of just making the numbers stack now. So again, really good opportunity. 8 properties here. And of these 8 properties, you've got a combination here of 1 and 2 bed properties. We've got 3 2-beds and 5 1-bed units here on this planning consent. So really good opportunity. I really like the building. I think it's a stunning building. You've got plans drawn up. Again, nothing stopping you from redesigning these and resketching it out. Perhaps there might be some other opportunities. But again, a great opportunity here to bring 8 new properties to the market. And you've got a motivated seller, which is a big bonus already. But obviously the numbers need to stack. Do your homework. But yeah, that caught my eye because of the big green tick on my search engine.
Yeah, great opportunity.
It's a beautiful building as well.
It is a stunner, isn't it? Yeah, and hopefully that gets James off my back for giving me a bit of sticks.
I'll let you off.
Brilliant. Well, look, guys, that brings us to a close on today's market update episode. Thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And and please do get in touch with any questions you've got and give us any information you'd like us to look into in future episodes. By all means, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Just a reminder, you can go to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, scroll down to the bottom page there and send us a message that way. Or as many of you always do, reach out to us on social media such as Facebook and send us a message, just get in contact. And we love hearing from you.
Fantastic. Well, that's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
That's bye from me.